Welcome, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to say that I'm here with my lovely friend Oskar. Oskar flew in the last couple of days, sent me a message yesterday. I'm in London, do you fancy it? I was like, I'll jump on the train, and I have not done a live podcast yet, and I thought this is a great opportunity. Got my new equipment, so this is a bit of a test. Oskar is the test bed, but we're going to make this work, aren't we? We're going to talk about leadership and confidence and mindset and all the other good stuff. And Oskar is a captain on a 650 for a Middle East operation. We first came across each other how many years ago now, when Oskar was the director of flight operations for an operation in Poland, was looking for a freelance captain on the 650. I don't know how we got introduced, but I went to fly for him and thought, what a lovely chap, very easy. And then we found ourselves flying together on another contract job a few years ago, where we had an urgent, almost emergency situation, which we've just been talking about, and we will refer to a little bit later. But welcome, Oskar.
Hi, Ben. Nice to see you again.
Thank you very much for the message yesterday. It's worked out well. But so just give us a little bit of a few minutes bio of how you started out in aviation.
Okay, so I think I'm a commercial pilot for 25 years now. I focused the entire career. I'm focused on business aviation, starting with the very small airplanes, twin engine, light aircraft, flying mostly medical flights, organ donors. Organs for transplantations and medical teams. That was very challenging because it was the very beginning of my career. I started this having like 300 hours of total experience, and I was appointed as a captain very, very quickly after that. And this is when the learning curve started for me, and it continued for years to be very, very steep learning curve.
Yeah.
Because after a couple of years, I got the job flying my first jet. It was a citation jet for the owner in Poland, and since then I was basically growing and learning the business aviation, the management with this company for 15 years, and we developed. When I was hired to fly this first jet, the citation jet, there were two pilots engaged in the operation, flying only for the owner and his family. But at some point, we noticed the need of establishing the AOC, the Air Carrier Certificate, so he could basically let other people fly this airplane and get some compensation, because that was quite difficult. You know, there was so we started this AOC process, and we got this, I believe, in 2006. And since then, it was like a snowball. It started going very quickly. So when I was leaving the company, there was 15 aircraft, and mostly operated in charter. So we would charter out these airplanes. We were very, very good established on the charter market, flying these jets more than 1,000 hours per year.
Wow.
So, and we had full maintenance organization in 2 hangars in Warsaw, and we were employing more than 170 people at this time. So it was a very, very intense time, running 2 or 3 shifts, and very steep learning curve as for the pilot, but also for the manager.
Yeah, that's when I first came across you, and it was impressive because you're even. I wouldn't say I'm young, but I'm in my 50s, and you're a little bit younger than me, and that's a hell of a rise, isn't it? Really. But you left there a few years ago, didn't you?
Yes, I left 6 years ago. I think it was good time for me to change after 15 years. And I moved with my family, because on top of developing my flying career and managing the company, co-managing the company, I was developing my family.
Yeah, of course.
As a father of three. So we moved to the Middle East, and I thought it would be very beneficial for my kids because Poland is a great country to live, and we have a very comfortable life in Warsaw, where I was born and raised as at the same where I met my wife as well at the university.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show my children a different world with a little bit more variety regarding the cultures, the skin colors, the religions, and I think the Middle East, UAE fit very well in this plan, because the first school my kids were enrolled, they have the day when they started, I've been told there was 80 nationalities from, it means basically the whole world was there.
That's extraordinary.
And it did open their minds a lot. They have friendships now with the kids, with people from all the continents, and they are very open-minded.
You need to
It's been I think hugely beneficial for them. It was really an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, that's a bit of a reflection of you and your personality, is that you are trying new different things. You can deal with challenges as they come along. I mean, it is a hell of a CV, as it's thrown into that intensive environment as a young pilot, dealing with that, and then to be given the opportunity to get up to senior management and running the company is a sign. I can see that because we've had a lot of discussions, and you have a very open mind. I mean, you've seen it. We were talking a little bit earlier about different leadership styles, and leadership it's not always about where you are on the ladder, because you can be a leader down the bottom, leader from the top, can't you really? I mean, even our children are teaching us leadership skills as well, aren't they? But I mean, how did you find going from flying aeroplanes to having to deal with employing hundreds of different people and dealing with the difficulties that come from personalities and the mindset issues, the lack of confidence, the cultural balances and all that sort of stuff? It's a big task.
It is, but I must say, at some point of the career, I would say the flying the airplane, operating the aircraft is given. It's basically, you have to go through the trainings every 6 months. It's challenging. Sometimes it's very challenging because you face situations in the air, and there's many factors possibly affecting your work, like the technical problems, like weather, like problems with the procedures. If you fly worldwide, then sometimes they can be really unexpected, I would say, and you have to deal with this, and you have to be resilient. But after spending thousands of hours in the cockpit and dealing with these scenarios, you're kind of used to it. What is interesting and basically drives me still, it's more than flying the aircraft, is actually dealing with people, because here you have a bigger variety of problems, of issues, of different, the set of possible scenarios, the factors which are influencing your decisions and people's lives. It's endless. And when you have a team and you are the person that you don't manage your company through the Excel sheet, but you manage the company, looking at people and responding to their needs and creating a safe environment for them, because in my opinion that's crucial for the company and for people to thrive. This is what really drives me, and this is what still, and there's no change in this, it's very interesting to me. Dealing with people.
Yeah, I think so. When I remember that because specific times in your life, you remember the characters that you're involved in. And I think when I did the freelance for you years and years ago, again, I'm an English guy throwing myself into a Polish operation, having no idea. You literally, I'll be there on a day and you'll get picked up by the other captain, whatever it was. I had no idea, but it's very easy to feel slightly intimidated by situations. And of course, in order to make people feel safe, you've got to make them, you've got to hear them, you've got to see them. And I certainly felt that with you when I was talking on the phone. I thought, here's an easy guy. He's making it really easy for me. There's no, well, you turn up, you don't turn up, and I'm not going to pay you, and all that, which we find, don't we, in people who don't have the same emotional intelligence as I would say that you have, the self-understanding about how to create an atmosphere for somebody. But yeah, the point is we have to start from ourselves,
yes,
don't we? And you, in a world, in an industry where we're males, in an industry where we're very male dominated, the ego plays out, has done for millions of years effectively. And I find that in our industry very much is that, you can sit next to somebody for hours and hours and hours on end, and if somebody hasn't developed that self-awareness, that emotional understanding, the regulation of emotions become a problem, and then the conflicts arise, don't they? We're dealing with people of all different backgrounds, different cultures around the world, under different pressures. Yeah. And it has to start, I think, from a deep self-understanding, which is something that you've clearly done from an early age. I mean, how did you develop that side of you?
Yeah, I think it does. First, I think many things you can learn, but obviously there is some base which, for example, you inherit in your genes, and you coming with this from your home, and that creates maybe a base for future development. And this is, for example, this emotional intelligence. You can learn that. You can learn to some point, but some people are more natural, and you can see that. And I can, for example, I can see if I deal with some managers that they came to some adequate level of the management because they were trained. They were trained by big corporations. They are aware of their actions. But I can see also people which are just very natural in this. They don't need this training. But obviously, in order to develop, I can, and by no means I think that I am I'm perfect in this. I'm far away because it's so complicated to manage people effectively. But so I think that what's always needed in order to learn new things, like management was a new thing for me. You have to be open to learn, and you have to be open to learn from your mistakes, from your successes, although I think the mistakes teach you more. So, and you have to be self-aware, and I think you have to be the first one to criticize yourself and look from the perspective at yourself, how your actions influence people and influence the business, and having this, and that comes with experience and maturity, like the overview. Okay, I make this decision now about this specific person, this specific situation, and that's gonna solve my problem. How that is gonna affect the company, the image of the company in a few years. Because what I do now will be judged in the future, because especially aviation world is small. So we know each other, we know the other crew members, and I think we have to, it's in order to create, successful company, attracting the best people from the market, you have to create a certain environment and the image of the company. So that's that's important. But being a human being, just treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
It's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's right. Really, I mean, one of the big things there is admitting to failures, and of course, the male. We've been socialised for years to just have no mercy because we needed to do that to survive in the old days. We needed to run away from the line, and if somebody was holding us up, then we just have to go. We'd have to. We were the providers, and we had to deal with that. And I think that is played very much in modern culture still, unhelpfully. So, yeah, again, in our male-dominated aviation industry, there are very few people, I think, who are able to admit mistakes and see it as a wonderful creative opportunity, because we're looking for something further down the line. You talked about the environment, creating the environment, the classic thing. You plant a seed for an oak tree, and you have no idea whether that's going to sprout, but you've got to create an environment. You've got to fertilize it somehow, thinking that down the line it's going to result in something that flourishes, really. And I find that even now is that some of the people I have flown with in the last few years live in fear of making mistakes. They don't feel. We talk about psychological safety it's a bit of a corporate term now. We talk about CRM, crew resource management, don't we, which is geared towards personality factors. Yes. But even when we sit in that classroom, there's a lot of people who are like, God, oh Christ, when's this over? What a waste of time, because they don't feel comfortable talking about their feelings and their expressing themselves. And I think it's unusual still to find men who are able to do that. We know that from the statistics, sadly, the suicide statistics of 76% of men in the UK take their own lives because they either punch or they withdraw and take their own lives and do something silly. So creating that environment is incredibly important. And we talked about that balance of the girls and the boys in the industry. How do we start rebalancing that? Because it's only 5% of the girls in our industry, and we need to bring it up. We need to bring the empathy up, the feminine sides of empathy and compassion to the more assertive, more aggressive side of the male side, and rebalance it, not give up one for the other. I mean, how do you reckon we do that? I know you've done your best in your roles in management to do that.
I mean, I tried, but for years I had a goal to employ a woman pilot, but on the Polish market, because we mostly source our pilots from the Polish market, not only, but it was the easiest way because most of the airplanes were based in Poland, so it was less of the struggle. We didn't offer these commuting jobs, and so it was basically not 100%, but I would say 90% Polish crew. And but there is just a few of them in aviation, especially on this business aviation market, the ones that are willing to join this kind of company. So at the very end of my career as a manager with the previous company, I was able to employ the first girl in the cockpit. I was very proud of myself. That, even though I shouldn't be, but this is at the stage where I was, it was just difficult because there is just a few girls available as on the market, and there is, I think, maybe 10% of the pilots is the women are maybe 10% of the pilots. So, and also probably the majority would go to the big airlines, not the business aviation. So, but I must say, I was trying to for years I was holding this monthly meetings where everybody from the company was invited, just for a chat, like maybe not exactly like we are sitting here, because it was more people. It was no one was obliged to come, but basically we would discuss the present situation in the company, the challenges, what was going on, stuff like this. So typically the conference room was full of people, and I used this opportunity to keep in touch with people, to be connected, and also to exchange information and feelings. And that's why. And this is, for example, the time when I would, during these meetings and during the CRM courses, when I was, because I was instructor, the CRM instructor as well, the crew resource management, I would try to enforce more awareness among the girls how important role was the role of the flight attendant, for example, because they, some of them, they come into the industry, especially in business aviation, maybe where the training is not so extensive like in the airline, and they might consider themselves as the waitresses, as the servers, and their role can be well beyond that. And that's actually, especially, after years, they becoming very experienced crew members, and their opinion, their insights, what they see from the cabin could be crucial for the safety of flight as well. Not only for the well-being of the team, like the cooperation within the team, but for the safety of flight. I have a couple of examples, and obviously there is much more. But I remember very early during the career, I was flying a Challenger, and the bleed line got in the end at the aft of the airplane, the bleed line, which was in the wall next to the lavatory, got disconnected, and that was hitting up the wall in the lavatory, creating a huge safety issue, because that would easily cause the fire in the airplane, in the air, which is the major risk.
It's the biggest risk, isn't it?
Yes, biggest risk. And there was the flight attendant who was sitting there. She had no training, but she managed to come to the airplane, to the cockpit, and to see the flight deck crew and tell them about this. And initially she was sent away. She was
dismissed.
Yes, she was dismissed. And I give it as an example first of all to the cockpit crew, that should never happen, because you never know, and she might not be trained to the same level like the cockpit crew, but for sure she's got her senses and she can judge, and she's based on her experience that's not normal. So she came again and she said, "Listen, guys, you have to check it. Just do it for me, because it's not normal." And this is how we discovered that there was a disconnection in the bleed line in the aft of the airplane. So that was the major one, and this is what I was giving us an example, how important the role of this flight attendant could be, even sometimes against the attitude of the pilots, because we know the attitude of the pilots. Many of them, they are not easygoing men, especially for the cabin crew. That's the reality. And there was a similar story about the flight attendant coming to the cockpit and asking the pilots to check the wing condition somewhere in Siberia, because she didn't like the view from the window, from the cabin, because their wings were kind of shiny, and apparently the airplane was de-iced before departure, but let's say the ground team maybe didn't keep like proper standards. Maybe someone was confused with something. Maybe someone was not able to operate the equipment in a way it was designed. But the wings were covered with the ice, like it was de-iced with the hot water instead of the mixture with alcohol, with the glycol. So that's immediate threat to the safety of the flight. that's
fundamental.
That's fundamental. And she came to the cockpit, and she was brave enough, because many of the girls, many of the ladies, I would say, they would assume that maybe they are wrong. Maybe they don't know. The cockpit crew would know better. So it's for years I think I was trying to enforce more awareness of the importance of the ladies in aviation, which we fly for. I also, that's an obvious trick, but at some point I created the crew coordination team, which would coordinate the rosters and take care basically of all the positioning flights for the cockpit crew, for the crew in general. That takes a lot of negotiations. This is where the stress is located. When someone from the company calls you and tells you that you have to stay on duty longer, or you have to leave your home 2 days earlier.
Yes.
So for this job, I enrolled only women, because I always knew that basically when I removed the macho attitude, at least from the one side of the equation, it will be much easier.
Yes.
And obviously I was trying to find the team with the highest possible level of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And that was the key to success. It worked very well.
I can see that, and actually that's completely inspired, isn't it, really? I think, yes, in terms of our primary survival, the ladies had to be a bit more empathetic, understandably, but on the other side, men were physically stronger, and the ladies were dependent on that for survival as well. We really needed each other from those opposing points of view. Life is very different now. We have our basic means pretty much set for us, except for certain parts of the world. But generally speaking, in the West, we have those things set up. So it's not a matter of life or death. The fact that we have to be a strong man and a strong woman, we need to blend that in a little bit more. And I think, again, there are certain men are much more open to emotional intelligence and sort of empathetic, and we need to encourage that much more. Having grown up through sports teams, I could see where the alpha male dominance came in as like, well, toughen up and man up and drink your beer. And actually that's very destructive, because you're effectively not listening to an incredibly valuable resource. So the idea that you had those monthly meetings, bringing people in, it's like, this is your opportunity to voice whatever it is, and there is never a stupid question, there's never a stupid comment. And that's what real psychological safety is about. We can use these buzzwords, can't we? But an open environment where it's not just having to tick a box, it's, how do we find the very best in human potential here, not in the corporate, policy and diversity and inclusion, all the rest of it. I get really worried when I hear this, because I think people are just stamping something on. It's like, how do we actually create an environment for the best of human potential, to maximize on human capital? And I think certainly in our industry, we need to encourage the empathetic and compassionate side, which we are still lacking on. Men are still fearful of making mistakes. And humility is one of your big things. This is where it starts from, isn't it? Is that actually, you've achieved you're at the top of your game in terms of the aeroplane you fly, the experience you have. You're also at the top of the game in terms of the management experience, and you're dealing with people and things like that. Yet you've already said it's always about learning. There's nothing arrogant about you whatsoever, because you realize it's in your interest and everybody else around you to keep asking those questions and keep moving forward effectively, isn't it? It's that forward momentum, so we don't fall out of the sky.
It is. And I think, I think, creating the environment for people to thrive, to bloom, it's an amazing thing. If you can say about your achievements that you are able to do something like this, that basically a little bit like in the crew resource management from the cockpit, that you have two pilots, and there's one on the left side and one on the right side. But if they know how to cooperate, the result of their work is not like 1 + 1 is 2. It's like 1 + 1 is becoming 3.
Yeah.
It's like in the cockpit, there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience already introduced in this crew resource management. It became already a huge thing in aviation, because it's true. If you look at aviation nowadays, the human being is the only limiting factor.
Yes.
Because the machine doesn't break anymore. It's like, they say that 80% of aviation accidents nowadays is caused by the human factor. But if you consider the mistakes people engage in manufacturing airplanes, designing airplanes, which they make, it's 100%. It's only human being, because the machines are so dependable nowadays. So if you look from this perspective, obviously, creating the right environment for the people to operate this machine is crucial.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same for the company. It's basically, in order to achieve results, to create the environment for the people to be successful, for the company to grow, you have to create a safe environment and provide people with the proper tools. If you give people proper tools, and you give them a sense for their work, you give them a reason to work. Like a person, they can treat that as a personal achievement, or maybe, for one person that would be the most important part would be the personal achievement. But for someone else, that would be the result of the work as a team. So because we are all different, but the crucial thing is to create a safe environment where people actually feel safe. They know they can make a mistake, and they will learn from their mistakes, and they proceed further.
Yeah.
So that's for me. That's for me probably the crucial thing in the management and creating the work culture and work environment.
Very much so. And again, it's awareness that everybody has an individual personality and individual identity. We're all governed by different beliefs, ideas, insecurities, excitement, motivation. And if we can be aware of, if we can understand people, classic thing when we're at school, my son is 15 and my daughter is 16, some of the lessons they can't stand because the teacher is just not interested in them as individuals, whereas the subject's actually really interesting, and it's the other way around. Some of the teachers really take interest in them for their uniqueness. They don't like the subjects much more, but it's their favorite lesson, and it's just a classic thing. Of course, in aviation, safety is our number one thing, yet we're still governed in money factors, corporate factors. If you don't take off on time, if you don't land, if you don't say yes to the billionaire in the back, then everything's going to go wrong. But that's intrinsically unsafe because it creates a psychologically unsafe environment. So creating the atmosphere to be able to listen to somebody, and you mentioned the word criticism, which I know you didn't use quite right in the context of yourself, as criticize myself. It's actually, we'd understand this, it's about reflection, isn't it? It's actually what went well and what needs to be worked on. I'm trying to encourage my son to deal with that. I took him to cricket nets last night, and he's always thinking, I played a bad shot. And it's like, mate, what did you do that was well? Did you have your head in the right place? Let's really concentrate on that. What then needs to be worked on? So it's not a criticism. It's not what went right and what went wrong. What actually helps in the situation, and what is it that we can do to help the situation go to the next level? Actually, on the sport front, I was out at a 40th birthday party the other day, and I was talking to a guy called Kelly Brown. He was a captain of the Scotland rugby team, had 65 caps for it, and he was a coach at Saracens and played there. And I was talking to him about his ideas of leadership, and he said there are two errors. As a coach, he'd say there's a skill error for which he believed the coaches could take responsibility for. If they identified something gone wrong, okay, we're going to go and we're going to coach it out of the system. And then there's an effort error, which is much more individual. So it's joint accountability, isn't it, really? But then again, how do we foster that healthy psychological environment where people are motivated to put their effort in? And I think it's being approachable at whatever level. The director of flight operations, someone who's got endless experience on our kind of aeroplanes, new people coming in who are feeling a bit intimidated. It's like smack him on the back and just say, you're welcome, and you are welcome, and it's great to have you. And if I'm a bit of an idiot and I start to bark and shout, it's because I'm scared about something. I've got an emotional need. I'm a human being, and I'm never going to be perfect. And if we're perfect, we're incredibly boring.
Yeah.
So I think, and I think, again, it comes down to humility, because humility teaches us to be more aware of what's going on around us, isn't it?
Yes, and I think it's extremely important. And I know that, maybe young people, not only young people, they think that this is the money what motivates people to work.
Yeah, money.
It is short term, probably for majority, but once the needs are covered and the basic needs are secured, I would say it's not the most important factor. How you work, you get the raise, and you're happy for a month or two because you're appreciated. You have a little bit more money in your pocket. But at the end of the day, it's not the major, at least based on my observation, my experience, it's not the major factor which motivates people. I know we were building the company in a very strict financial regime coming from the owner, and it was difficult. It was difficult to compete, on this salary level with many other companies. But we still have people staying with us for years and not looking for different opportunities. It was very rare during this 15 years career with the previous company that I would see someone leaving. And sometimes, yes, because they were requiring something different in life. Like, for example, pilots would leave because they wanted more stable rosters with the major airline, other than the random assignments dictated by the business aviation. Even though for me that would be boring, this is not what I'm looking for, but I understand that some people do. Yes, I think there are different factors, there are different things which motivate people, and we are all different. And there are obviously some common things, I would say, that everyone needs some kind of appreciation, whether it's a handshake or the good word in the morning, or what makes a difference. If you have employees, but you spend time talking to them, and if you ask someone, how are you, you mean it. You actually listen to the answer, and you know something about their families. You know that sometimes they are going through some troubles in life. You give them maybe an easier time at the office, and you tell them that. And my experience is, if I tell someone, listen, take it easy because I know what you're going through, he would be even more productive, because that's the way people would show appreciation of the fact that I spent time on recognizing and understanding their problems. So that's like I said at the very beginning, that this is an extremely interesting thing, you know, managing people.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I think at the end of the day, it's being curious to other people, asking the question, how are you? And genuinely listening to the answer. It's being curious about individuals. And, you know, and that really is the seat of leadership, I think, is because then we can learn how to influence rather than, I have the contrast between leadership and kickership. If you don't understand personalities, you don't have so much self-awareness, you get promoted to a position, whether it being a parent or whether it being in business or flying. And if you're not sure about yourself and you can't cope, you end up trying to kick, you try and control. But then everybody is kept in that little prison. There's no big bucket. Emma Henderson, who's on the podcast, she talks about that, you know, increase your bucket size. At the end of the day, we've got to increase our capacity because that's how it worked in terms of evolution with our ancestors. They had to increase the opportunity to survive. Options, what the options. So we had to work together. And I think that's the real balance. I believe in that in terms of finance and money. We think that's the answer to our dreams, but actually how are we valued as individuals? Are people seeing us? Are people hearing us? Are people tuning into the vibration of our heart and our soul? I think is massively valuable, because if you can do that, Nelson Mandela talked about it, humility, you know, one of the most important qualities you must have is humility, because when you demonstrate humility, you automatically get people to tune into you, to embrace you and to listen to you. And this concept is simple, but the practice can be hard, particularly when we're thrown all the different uncertainties in life. Physical health, mental health, relationship health with somebody else. But when you recognize that, you can actually have an impact that creates that capacity for everybody to grow together. It's an incredible thing, isn't it? I find that fills my heart with joy, so much hope in a world now where there's so much negativity is right. It's like we're just in an incredible time in humanity. Let's make this work.
Yeah, I agree. And there is one thing maybe I should mention, that this is, I think, very important to create for bonding with people, to create these connections that even if you are the boss, you're appointed as a boss because you're not born as a boss. You're appointed as a boss, but you should be mature enough to show your weaknesses.
Yes.
To show that you're vulnerable.
Yes.
And basically that you're not able to cope with everything but what the world is bringing you. And this is, you know, so the people can see that you are honest in this, because you are able, you can admit your mistakes. You are able to show your weaknesses. And this is what is, in my opinion, what is really bonding, and it's important for the people to be around. We are talking about the companies, but also, you know, our relationship here, whatever relation, you know, the fact that I'm exposing myself, I'm showing my vulnerability, that means that I trust you.
Yes.
And if I trust you, I might expect the same in return. That creates the idea in your mind that you can trust me.
Yeah.
So that's important. That, you know, you at the end you show yourself as a human being as well.
Yeah, I think you're bang on. Actually, in terms of the bonding, it feeds really well into our experience taking off from Luton and that 650.
Yeah.
I'd worked for you before, but I hadn't met you because I didn't fly with you when you were working in Poland.
Yeah.
We found ourselves as contract pilots, freelance pilots for this operation. And we took off from Luton with the boss in the back, who also knew how to fly that aeroplane, you know, multi-billionaire, but could fly aeroplanes. And we had the left hydraulic issue problem, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
So we had all the lights flashing literally within whatever it was, 30 or 40 seconds of us taking off. But we'd never flown together. We'd never seen each other operate in the simulator. But I think the fact that I felt very comfortable in your company, you know, because there was that honesty, that sense of vulnerability, is that I don't have to be the big ego here, pretending that I'm big chief. I can admit that, I'm struggling or whatever to Oskar, and he would do the same. And I put the way we dealt with that situation with the billionaire sitting on the jump seat, watching us, having never flown together. I think we did that extremely well. Not because we're, Billy Big Bollocks, just because we admit we're human beings, and we debriefed afterwards, didn't we? We got on the ground, and I think I said, what do you reckon? I was in the left-hand side, I was flying, you were doing all the support stuff on the right-hand side. Really good communication, and I think I did. There was something that I could have done better, but it wasn't a criticism. And you mentioned it to me, and I was like, absolutely bang on, next time I'm going to do that. So I didn't feel intimidated. I didn't feel as though you were going, I'm better than you and all the rest of it. That's how we bonded, and that's how we created success out of that situation. I think it's a great metaphor for life.
I think that was a good example of the CRM, how we manage this situation, and that's quite reassuring, if you look at this modern aviation industry that we never met before. We are for the first time in the cockpit together, and the standardization of work and our background and our training allowed us to work through this I would say one of the major malfunctions, yes, because it was, even though it was not immediate threat to the safety, to life, but it can create a lot of insecurity in the cockpit, and it can create a lot of confusion, and that leads very quickly to the serious problems in the air. We know that. So I think it did work very well for us. Yes, that's. I was very happy about not about the malfunction, but about the way we dealt with it.
Yeah, it was a great learning opportunity, and that's one of those things that you can either choose to advertise your brilliance or see it as, well, that's great, because then when somebody else is in that situation, I can say, I've been there, I understand, it was an uncertain time, this is how we managed to work it out together, and I'd love to be able to support you. Circumstances may not be right, and what I did could be improved upon. And it's honesty, isn't it? Being honest in an objective way is really important. So now, unfortunately, we probably hit our marker. So we've got a lovely young lady there who needs to do some hoovering around. So we're going to be turfed out of here. So we've got to bring it to a halt. But I think we've covered some brilliant conversations: humility, honesty, the male-female balance of listening to people, making people feel comfortable. I mean, we could go on for hours, as always. I always say that.
I think so.
But it's been brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. What a great guy. Hey, this has been another wonderful conversation. Always love to hear your comments, of course, the positives, what we can work on next time. Any suggestions, really valuable. So please leave your comments in the box. But please remember, until we meet again, to keep it in the greens. Thank you, Oskar.
Thank you.